Welcome to Alaskwatch, the show all about Bigfoot in the great state of Alaska. I'm your host, Beans Baxter. So lace up your boots, zip up your coat, and come with me on an adventure as we explore all things cryptid in the last frontier. All right, guys, I'm here with an emergency episode. We got a couple of things to cover. Seems like we went a really long time without any Bigfoot news or real movement or any activity in the subject. And in the span of 2 weeks, we've had two Bigfoot stories hit the mainstream media, which is extremely rare for that many Bigfoot stories to hit the mainstream media in 2 weeks. So the first one that I kind of want to touch on and just talk about a little bit is this Ohio flap. It's a flap, for those of you that don't know. It's a term that was coined. I believe it was first initially used with UFO sightings. It basically indicates a high amount of activity in an area. Like if a bunch of people saw UFOs in one area, that's a flap. So we're using that terminology now with cryptids and Bigfoot. So this flap is a group of sightings in a small amount of time. So a couple of weeks ago, at this time of recording now, Jeremiah from the Bigfoot Society podcast, he put out several social media platforms like Facebook and X and TikTok. He put out some what I would describe as like calls to action or public service advisory, basically saying he's had multiple sightings reported to him, all from a small area in Northeast Ohio. So I believe at the time that I started like looking into this and researching it, which a few days prior to this recording, we're at like 8 or 9 sightings, and that's on the official record. I'm using quote fingers when I say official. And when I say official record, what I'm referring to is Jeremiah's documentation on social media, stuff that we can actually go back and look at. We can go back and look at these posts from, 5, 6, 7 days ago. And the initial like call to action or PSA included the following sightings. I'll run through them real quick. On March 6th at 12:23 p.m. in, I believe it's Mantua, a 9-foot brown male was spotted, Bigfoot. On March 7th at 10:52 p.m. in same place, Mantua, an 8-foot figure spotted, muddy prints. On March 9th at 10:20 a.m. in Garrettsville, a hiker stated he encountered an 8-foot Sasquatch with black fur. On March 9th at 11:47 a.m. at the Headwaters Trail, a 10-foot black figure with a stilt-like gait and musky odor. That's a little red flaggy with a stilt gait. On March 9th at 6 p.m. in a Windham, a 6-foot brown figure spotted running with impossibly long strides. So that's, from what I understand, the initial surge of sightings, what kicked this all off, what prompted these PSAs and calls to action from Jeremiah. And so that initial surge got posted and it went viral. It triggered what I can only describe as a deluge of attention. And I can always tell when something is hitting the mainstream, when something gets viral, because my non-Bigfoot friends start sending it to me. And that's pretty much when I know something has hit the mainstream. When people who aren't interested in Bigfoot start seeing it and they start sending it to me, which, I mean, I don't bother to explain to them that by the time they see it on the regular news or their family members repost it and they see it, like I've probably known about it for a couple of days at that point, probably more, because I'm friends with all those people that are directly involved in that kind of stuff. Bless their hearts. It's great. I love it. It's awesome. But I've got my hand on the pulse, again, using quote fingers, And it's funny, you know, when they send me that stuff, because I'm like, yeah, I heard about this days ago. I didn't send it to you because I know you're not interested in Bigfoot, but I appreciate the sentiment. So moving on, these initial sightings, they get posted, the fire gets lit, takes off. Jeremiah is asking people in the area to keep their eyes out, to report any sightings. And honestly, I've had trouble keeping up with what the final count of sightings in the area is, or even if we have a final count. So I recall seeing Jeremiah at one point post somewhere that he had received hundreds of sightings. I'm using quote fingers for hundreds. And he was sorting through them. Now, I don't know if those sightings he were referring to were all located around the flap, or if he's getting reports from all over the country now because of the attention that he's gained. Okay. I know for years now that I've asked for specifically Alaska based sightings. Like, this is the last Squatch. I want Alaska Bigfoot and cryptid stuff. And over the years, I've got like maybe a half a dozen, maybe. Like, if this was a sightings based show, like I would put out like one show a year probably. And I'm constantly but I'm constantly getting sighting reports from other places. And, you know, you know, I don't know if I mentioned it or not. I think the most puzzling one that I ever got was someone messaged me and they're like, I had this sighting in New York. I think I saw a Bigfoot, and they're like, can you look into it? And I'm like, well, no, I'm in Alaska. And they're like, well, can you look into it? And I'm like, what the fuck you want me to do? I'm in Alaska. I was like, talk to this person. Here's a New York based researcher. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not flying to New York to investigate a sighting. So I kind of doubt that Jeremiah is getting hundreds of sightings from this one geographic area. It's more like he's getting sightings from all over the country, and likely the world. You know, this is hit mainstream. It was on Fox News. It was on CNN. Barstool Sports, I think, was tweeting about it. So people all over the world have seen it. And, you know, some 60, 70-year-old guy in Kissimmee, Florida sees it, and he's like, I saw a Bigfoot. I'll tell him about that. You know, I saw one 60 years ago, which, hey, it's great that you want to report it. It's great that it's getting in the mainstream, but we're trying to concentrate on this one geographic area. And that's what we're asking for. But, you know, people always, you know, they're like, well, I'll tell you about the time I saw a Bigfoot in, you know, Walhatchee, Texas or something. And, it's like, well, no, I thank you, but I was looking for sightings in this particular area. I remember one time we were coming back from Port Chatham, and the owner of the boat we were on basically said, hey, one of the guys at the fuel docks wants to talk to you about Bigfoot. And, you know, we were filming and we're like, man, this is great. We're going to get eyewitness encounter because this guy lives in Alaska. We're in Alaska. He wants to talk about Bigfoot. You know, we're making a documentary about Bigfoot in Alaska. It's going to be great. We get to the fuel dock. The guy walks up to us and he's like, sir, I wanted to meet you. And, you know, shakes everybody's hand, meets us. And we're like, all right, dude, tell us about your sighting. And he goes, well, I was like 10 years old and I was living in Arkansas. And you could just see like everybody with us was like, oh shit. You know, like we wanted Alaska sightings for our documentary. You know, no shade on the dude for wanting to come forward and give his story, tell a sighting. Like, that's awesome. But you know, you can't help but be a little disappointed sometimes when you're like, I need this information, and these people are wanting to be helpful, but they're not giving me the information that I need or I'm looking for. So anyway, getting back to Ohio, it's interesting how when you plot these sightings on a map, these sightings, they seem to indicate that these things are moving east. They're going east. Okay. And at the time of this recording, I know just a few days ago, there was like a massive storm system that moved through there. Might still be going through there. I think I just saw something today where some people in Boston were saying they were like snowed in or something, and it just moved all through that eastern area, that eastern block there. I think it hit North Carolina and some other places. And so that, like, why are like, I know some people were like, well, they're trying to avoid the storm. It looked to me, if you look at the map and you look at the storm system, they were moving towards the storm. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe there's something going on about it. I don't know. Breaking news, there was like a bunch of comets or asteroids. I don't know the difference. I guess they're asteroids. There's a bunch of asteroids. No, meteorites. I don't know space people. I like Star Wars. there were a bunch of meteorites seen in Ohio, kind of not, I guess, near this area, but near Columbus, which is east of this place. So they would have been moving away from the meteorites. Don't know if that's got anything to do with it. Don't know if it's related. You know, some people tell you there's no such thing as coincidences. Who knows? I don't think any of the meteorites actually like touched down. I think most of them burned up before they entered the atmosphere. But I do believe there was a lot of light activity in the sky and maybe a few sonic booms or two from those meteors that were coming in. And this flap would seem to have occurred just a few days before these meteors made their appearance here at Earth. So anyway, if somebody's familiar with the geography there, like I've been to Ohio several times. I've been to like Salt Fork. I've been to the Columbus area. I, you know, couldn't point to it on a map if I had to. It would be like somewhere in this general area. So if any of you the guys are in Ohio on the ground and you know of any particular reasons why those things might be moving that way, I mean, it's spring. Like it might just be regular seasonal migration, and somebody got lucky and saw a couple of them. You know, maybe one or two of them are valid, and a couple of them aren't. And we'll get into that. I want to talk about the validity of the sightings. Have a few what we'll call green flags and a few red flags, and we'll go over each and just kind of see where that leads us. You know, I'm not going to make any determination one way or the other. But as far as green flags go, things that I like about these sightings, I know Jeremiah. I've been on his show. We have several mutual friends. You know, we've chatted back and forth over the years here and there. I did get upset one time when he forgot I existed and was like, "Oh yeah, Alexander Petikoff. He looks for Bigfoot on the Kenai Peninsula." I'm like, "No, it's me." But Jeremiah and I, we have several mutual friends. Everybody that I know that knows him says he's a good dude and he's an upstanding dude. So, you know, he's got that going for him. He's had several character witnesses from people that I know in the Bigfoot community. Another green flag or something that I like about all these sightings, I like the differences. I like the discrepancies. Some might call that a red flag. I think it shows that there's not necessarily collusion on some of these sightings, where you have multiple individuals seeing different and describing different creatures, even though some of them might be the same creature. They're describing them in different ways. It would be almost more of a red flag to me if, say, somebody was like, I saw a black Bigfoot and he was walking with a limp. And then on another sighting in the same area, you hear somebody say, I saw a Bigfoot, a black Bigfoot with a limp. And that, you know, that's that distinguishing characteristic that like, that is the same animal. Sometimes I think that's a little bit of a red flag when you get multiple sightings in an area like that. Don't get me wrong. It could be the people are seeing the same animal. Like that certainly happens. Like we've had moose and stuff around here. Did you see that moose with the big like claw marks on the side or whatever? Yeah, I saw that one. I mean, it happens. Don't get me wrong. But I like that in this case. I like some of the discrepancies in the descriptions of the animals. I think that's a good thing here. Also, seems like as of this recording, there's a missing day. We had sightings on the 6th, 7th, and the 9th. Well, I know sightings on the 8th, and there may be one, and it may have been reported since I started doing this research. So don't at me if there's like more reports. I know Jeremiah was saying I think they might be up to like 9 or 10, possibly more reports now. This is a static situation. It's still going on as far as I know, and I believe Jeremiah just dropped a new episode about it either today or tomorrow. Either way, it will be out when this podcast drops. So it's already out if you're listening to this. So I urge you, unlike most people who have podcasts, I urge you to go listen to that podcast to get the most up-to-date information, because I'm a couple of days behind here. And also I'm not speaking directly to Jeremiah about this. And some of the answers that I have in this episode, he may answer or may have already answered. I just haven't come across it yet. Or they may be answered in this episode that he's dropping here today or tomorrow. So here are my red flags. Here's the things I don't like about this. Um, there's no physical evidence, no photos, no prints as of yet. There may be something coming later, or there may be something. I mean, or maybe on his new episode he's dropping. Maybe he'll reveal some of that. From what I understand, one of that first sighting that was reported there, the one on the 6th where the person observed the black figure, from what I understand, that was that sighting occurred by a Bigfoot researcher. It was a Bigfoot person that saw that. So I would expect there to be a photo, a video, something. I mean, if you're a Bigfoot researcher, you see a Bigfoot, like, I think it's kind of your job to at least try and get a photo. And I'm assuming that some more is going to come out about this. That I also understand, like, I've seen animals. One time I was sitting right here in this very chair, and I had my blinds open here, and a moose walked by, and I was on a live podcast, and I was like, "Oh, hey guys, check this out." And I was trying to turn the camera to see the moose, and I hit the power button and turned the computer off and got disconnected, and they didn't get to see the moose. So, I mean, I know this stuff happens, like, my second red flag, and this is kind of understandable, is the lack of sources. These, as of right now, are anonymous reports. We don't have any names. We can't do any independent follow-up. I understand. I mean, especially since these things have kind of gone viral. You don't want CNN and Fox News camped out in your front lawn trying to interview you if you're, just like a single mom, or just a married couple that's trying to go about your lives and don't want anything to do with Bigfoot. You don't want that to happen. I understand the need for witness privacy and anonymity. So, I mean, I'm still going to call it a red flag, but I'm not going to really hold it against anybody. I understand. Another thing that should be mentioned is, Jeremiah has been more than vocal about wanting to grow his channel on a show, and I'm not saying he's lying about these reports. I'm not saying that he's being untruthful. I'm just saying, he wants his show to grow. He wants it to go viral, which it has. Congratulations. But that might also lead him to tempt him to promote and to post things that are maybe a little unconfirmable or not verifiable. And, it's like, hey, I gotta make the show. I gotta eat. I've said this many times before about encounter driven podcasts. It's like, I got to put out a show on Tuesday. I don't believe a word of this guy's story, but I got to put out a show on Tuesday. So, like I said, I know he wants the show to grow. He wants it to go viral. He's been more than vocal about that in the past. He's mentioned his desire to dethrone the king of Bigfoot podcasting and become the top Bigfoot podcasts. I won't name any names, but it rhymes with butterscotch botanicals. But good luck. I hope he does. I hope he gets a million more listeners. And so the last thing I want to touch on, as far as, in my opinion, are red flags, are, and again, all these questions, by the time this comes out, all these questions may be answered. How did these 5 or 6 original sightings that I was telling you about earlier, how did they find their way to one source? How did they get to Jeremiah? Because if you ask 10 people, if you go find 10 random people and say, hey, how do I report a Bigfoot sighting? You're going to get like 4 to 8 different answers, probably. It's like, did all these witnesses just happen to contact Jeremiah? That kind of seems unlikely. The first Bigfoot sighting that I mentioned, I said that happened to a Bigfoot researcher. I think probably the most likely scenario is that they were reported to him and he reported them to Jeremiah. That seems the most likely source for all of these reports coming in at the same time. If you go to Google and just type in, like, how do I report a Bigfoot sighting? I think the first two things that come up are like woodape.org and the BFRO. And from what I understand, at this time, none of this information has gone through the BFRO. It's all came in uh, either independently or, like I said, the researcher from the original sighting maybe got these additional sightings and then approached Jeremiah with them. I don't know. But I'm thinking, I'm sure we'll probably get an answer to that. I'm sure those things will be addressed because I'm sure that's on everybody's mind is how did all these different witnesses end up reporting to the same source? It seems interesting to me. Like I remember I said the guy from some, or I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, the person from New York that was trying to report a sighting to me, and I'm like, I'm in Alaska, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Here's some New York researchers. You can talk to them. So let's talk about the aftermath of this. Since the stories broke, it's went viral. It's been on the news. I've seen some conflicting reports from researchers and people in the area. I saw one person that said they went through the area and it was a circus. I believe that was a word that was used. They said people were running around in the woods with guns and cars were parked all up and down the side of the road near the woods. And then I saw somebody else say that they went through the area and didn't see nothing or nobody. And, they were going to continue to investigate. So I don't know. It's interesting how something like that can happen and you get two completely opposite reports like that. And we're going to talk about that on our second subject of the day, something else very similar to that. But, I guess two things can be true at the same time. I guess it's possible that maybe the first person that said it was a circus went on like a Friday or Saturday night. People got nothing better to do in Ohio, especially. So they're going out and looking for Bigfoot. And then the second person went on, like Monday night, Tuesday night, work night, and people were, not able to get out and run around the woods. So who knows? They might just not went to the place where the people were either. So who knows? One of the things I also wanted to comment on, you guys know I do like funny memes and stuff here, and I make memes with things that I, that either annoy me. Sometimes it's just general like poking fun and stuff. And I made a meme about this going mainstream. It's like a picture of a person standing on the beach and there's like a tidal wave coming at them. And it says like, by the person, it says me. And it says my non-Bigfoot friends sending me information about the Ohio Bigfoot sightings. And because it went viral and people were like sending it. Oh, did you see this? You see that? You're going to have to take a trip to Ohio. And so I made the meme. I posted it on social media, posted on TikTok. And Jeremiah replied on TikTok. He commented and he said, just wait till you see what comes out tomorrow. And so I'm like, oh goodness, like what's coming? What's coming? Like what's he got? Has he got some footage? That's what I'm thinking. He's got footage, right? So the next day I'm like checking his social media. And I think what he was referring to is he got an 8th sighting. So I think that's what he meant is there was another sighting. And he was talking about that. So I got to admit, I was a little disappointed. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I'm not saying he shouldn't have teased it, but the language that he used in his comment made me think like something bigger was coming other than another a sighting. So let me use an analogy here. So I come in one day and I give you a present. Okay. I've got a box with gift wrap on it. And I hand you a box. It's like, here, I got you a present. And you open it up and it's a box of candy. And it's great, thoughtful gift. Appreciate it. And then I do the same thing the next day. I'll bring in a gift wrap box of candy. I do it again the next day. And I bring in a gift wrap box of candy. And then on the third day, I give you the candy, the gift wrap box of candy. And I go, just wait till you see what I got you tomorrow. So you're probably going to think something nice is cut. Like it's not going to be candy. It's going to be something else. Maybe Beans got me some jewelry or some AirPods. or something else, maybe some really nice driving gloves or a scarf. You're gonna think this pattern is gonna break and it's gonna be something else. And then the next day comes and I hand you another freaking box of chocolates. So can you see maybe how there's like a little problem there with some unearned hype and expectation? I mean, it's great that he's getting these sightings, but I I didn't know what to expect, and I was a little disappointed. I was, oh, you know another sighting. How about some pictures or something more tangible? But anyway, God bless him. He's doing good work over there. I appreciate what he's doing. It's interesting. And in conclusion for this, I think we're going to wrap this part up. I can't say for certain that these are viable, verifiable reports. That's, you got to go over to Jeremiah's podcast and listen to what he says there and make up your own mind. There's too much information that we just don't have. We don't have the witness information, stuff like that. And which I understand. So it's very unlikely that we're ever going to get the entire story or the entire picture. So at this point, it seems like there may not be any physical evidence coming. I don't know. I really hope there is. Like I said, like surely you would think that the one sighting that was made by the researcher, hopefully you'd think he got something. But anyway, I think this sighting, people are going to be talking about it for a long time. It's gonna go down in Bigfoot history, and it's gonna get rehashed and revisited in many, many Bigfoot books in the future with no real conclusions or closures. And we'll be reading about it for a long time to come. And it's already been kind of eclipsed by some more earth-shattering Bigfoot news. Which brings me to our next subject that I'm going to talk about after I take a little break. I'm going to come back and we're going to discuss the newest, God help us, viral Bigfoot news making the rounds. All right, guys. Hold on. Let me put my phone on. Do not disturb here. All right. It's time to address the Bigfoot in the room. Literally, in this case, as many of you know, one of my prized possession is this. This is a framed photo of frame 352 of the PG film, signed by Bob Gimlin. It hangs here. Usually it hangs in front of me at eye level, and it has for several years now. It's been with me when I recorded and appeared on dozens, if not hundreds of podcasts. I've written Bigfoot books with this hanging over my desk, recorded podcast episodes, and, tried out for TV shows, done auditions and everything else, standing in front of this picture right here. And, my history with the PG film is long, but I'll give you kind of like the Cliff Notes version for those that don't listen to me regularly. Shame on you. Or just tuning in for the first time. I don't know what took you so long. But when I first started into looking for Bigfoot seriously, when I first started taking the subject seriously, I thought it was kind of intriguing, but I also thought it was most likely a hoax. Like I did not buy the PG film. There were some things about the film that bothered me, like the bottoms of Patty's feet and her hair covered breasts, and the fact that there hadn't been any similar footage of that quality taken, and all that was kind of sketchy to me. I know, you can argue about the Freeman film, and we may touch on that a little bit later, or maybe another episode. But there were some things about it that I didn't like, that bothered me, and just looking at it as like a layperson, I thought, it's really interesting, it's really cool, but it's probably a hoax. And of course, I'd heard some of the things that we'll talk about a little bit later, some of the debunking and the nails in the coffin. We'll get to that in a minute. And then I went in 2017. I went to the International Bigfoot Conference in Kennewick, Washington, and it was the 50th anniversary of the film. And they had Dr. Jeff Meldrum, do a presentation about it. And everything that he said, he was up there with the PowerPoint showing, still going through. I mean, he went through the film basically frame by frame, and things just kind of fell into place. He showed the compliant gait, sagittal crests, all kinds of anatomical figures that a suit, especially a suit of that time, wouldn't be able to realistically capture. And not only was Dr. Meldrum there, but Bob Gimlin was there. And he got up on stage and he retold the story behind getting the footage and how they got it. And, he's very, very great storyteller. And I got to meet him. And subsequently, over the years, I've got to spend quite a bit of time with him. I've sat down and broke bread with the man. We've had meals together. And I always found him to be a good, moral character, and he come across as honest and trustworthy. And so, I mean, take a drink, everybody. I'm mentioning it again. I worked in law enforcement. I've been lied to by some of the best, and I'm certainly no human lie detector, but I think I'm pretty good. I'm decent. I've caught my fair share of criminals by detecting deception and stories and excuses and stuff like that in interviews. So, and other people have recognized that too. I know, for instance, when my sister-in-law started dating a new person, when she got a new man in her life, my wife basically tasked me. She said, "You go and you have dinner with them, and you get a read on him, and you let me know what you think." So, it's not just me saying like I'm a good judge of character. I'm a good interviewer. Like, other people know it and have basically sent me off to give somebody the okay, we'll say. So all these factors combined, Dr. Meldrum's presentation, Bob Gimlin's retelling of the story, talking to Bob, just sitting down and looking the man in the eye and having a chat with him about Bigfoot and other things. With all those factors combined, I mean, it made me a believer. I would 100% tell you the PG film is real. It's the best evidence we have. I know I've said this on multiple podcasts I've been on. I'm like, go look at the PG film. Like, it's amazing. And just in case you live under a rock, and some of you may, you may not have your finger on the pulse of the Bigfoot community. And if you do, God bless you. Ignorance is bliss. But this last week, a documentary was screened at the South by Southwest Film Festival it's a documentary called Capturing Bigfoot. And from what I can glean, I've looked it up on IMDb, or the Internet Movie Database. This documentary has 8 producers and 1 director, and none of the names, none of these people that produced the film or the director, as far as I could tell, none of them are Bigfoot people, have nothing to do with the community, have never been involved in the community, don't orbit the community, other than something we'll get to in a little bit. And from what I can understand, they have no interest in Bigfoot. So if you're inclined, if you know what IMDb is, head over there, look up Capturing Bigfoot, take a look. Let me know if any of those people in the credits, except for the cast, of course, but let me know if any of those people, producers, director, anything like that, have anything to do with Bigfoot or have ever been involved in the community, because I couldn't find any connections. Granted, I didn't look super hard, but I looked. And this whole thing started for me last week on X. I saw a post from someone. I don't even know. I don't think it was a Bigfoot person. I don't follow a whole lot of people on X. And I think it was somebody, just some random person, made a comment or a post that said something. I just screened a documentary at South by Southwest that proves the famed Patterson-Gimlin film is a hoax. And that was pretty much all it said. And I read it and I thought, this is just one of those random tweets by a random person, and they probably don't know anything about Bigfoot or the Bigfoot community or anything. Like people say stuff like that all the time. How many times have we heard similar things? Bob Hieronymus came forward, and that was the end of the PG film. Philip Morris said that Roger bought a suit from him, and that was the end of the PG film. Russell Accord said some weird shit a couple of years ago, and that was the end of the PG film. Over and over again for 60 years now, people have spread rumors, made accusations, and basically tried to debunk the film. And for the most part, it has withstood the test of time, at least in my opinion, based on, like I said, Dr. Meldrum's breakdown and my time with Bob Gimlin. So it's 2026, and yet another final nail in the PG foam coffin has emerged. And I've lost count, but I think this is like the 10th or 11th one now, to be honest. I don't know. And don't even get me started on the deathbed confessions. Like every post about that has a picture of Patty or mentions the PG film, there's always some random person that's like, that dude confessed on his deathbed that it was all fake. I don't know. I'm like, where do you cite your sources, sir? Where did you hear that? It's always like, well, my cousin told me. So I'm going to try and make this as brief as possible, but obviously I'm pretty passionate about this, so I'm going to go off on some tangents. So this new documentary, this Capturing Bigfoot, is said to show some new unearthed footage that has been those that have viewed and reviewed the film as a test run for the Patty suit and footage, basically almost like a rehearsal, if you will. Now, I really wanted to wait and make this video after I saw this documentary. And the word on the street for a while was that it was going to be on a streaming service called Plex on the 19th. Basically, I think would be tomorrow. And it seems like since that announcement was made, like if you went to the Plex website and looked up Capturing Bigfoot, it would be there and it would say like releasing March 19th. But since that rumor started, well, it's not even a rumor. I told you I went to the Plex website and saw that. Since then, I guess the director of the film has come out and said that that's not true. It's not coming out on Plex, and that the filmmakers are in talks with some streaming services. So, I'm no detective. Oh, wait, I am. If I had to guess, I'd say since this has gone viral, like there was an article in People magazine. I mean, it's viral. It's probably had more coverage than the Ohio flap thing that has at this point. So I'd say since its debut at the film festival and how it's gone. Oh no, Patty has fallen, ladies and gentlemen. Patty has fallen. Ugh. I'm not going to lie. That scared the hell out of me. All right. So since its debut, this thing has gone viral. There's been all kinds of coverage, and the social media buzz is out of control. Granted, I've made the mistake and I clicked on a few posts that were talking about it, discussing it, but my feed is nothing but Capturing Bigfoot and Patty, Capturing Bigfoot and Patty, I mean, just a deluge of this people talking about this documentary. So I'm assuming they saw the shitstorm, the viral storm that this documentary has caused, the stir in the community, the hype in the community. And they, like any filmmaker, I mean, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. We're like, hey, we can get some more money out of this. So they're probably holding out. If I had to guess, they're holding out for a 7-figure deal. So also, if I had to guess, we're looking at a couple of months, if we're lucky, before this thing comes out. Maybe. I mean, I could be wrong. It could hit something tomorrow. It could hit like Netflix or Amazon Prime tomorrow. I've pretty much resigned myself that I'm going to do whatever it takes to see it when it comes out. If I have to rent it or buy it, I'm going to. I I hate doing stuff like I hate supporting things that I'm not necessarily on board with. Um, for example, I've never seen the Flash of Beauty documentary. Like it's been recommended to me like 100 times. People are like, "Oh, you gotta see it. It's great. You gotta see it. It's great." But I know in the original cut, in the original edit, at the end, they show Bigfoot footage, and it's just like the Amazon Bigfoot suit. Like if you go to Amazon and you type in Bigfoot suit, that's what comes up, and that was in the footage at the end of the show. And I remember like Dr. Meldrum was like, "That is a suit," you know. Everybody was like, "That's the Amazon suit," and I guess they subsequently removed that from the film going forward. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to see this. I'm not going to watch this on principle, on general principle. I haven't watched anything they've done. It's like if I went to make a, I don't know any, let's say I don't know anything about Nessie, okay, the Loch Ness Monster, and I went to go make a video, a documentary about Nessie. And then at the end of the documentary, I'm like, I've got Nessie footage, and I like show you, and it's like a pool noodle, you know, like floating through the water. And I don't know anything about Nessie. That's look at that. There's something floating in the water. It's you know, it's probably Nessie. You know, no, like I'm not going to reward that level of incompetence. You know, no offense to anybody that was involved in that, but I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to support it. I'm not going to watch it. And I've heard it's a great documentary, and you know, more power to it. Watch it all you want. But getting back to capturing Bigfoot, unlike some people, actually, let me rephrase that. Unlike some people, I'm going to reserve my final judgment until I actually see the film itself. And this is very disturbing to me. This bothers me a lot. I've been hearing a lot of, well, my friend who I really trust has a friend that saw it, and he says the PG film is done. It's 100% a hoax. And I've been really disappointed by some really close friends at their reaction. Basically just making up their mind based on what somebody else has told them. And not even that. Like it's basically like my friend said that it's bad. So I'm telling you it's bad. And they're making up their mind. And you know what that is just hearsay. It's hearsay. And I guess, you know, it's in my nature to react like a police investigator and start trying to like take a closer look at things and figure things out and put things in perspective and, you know, investigate. And, you know, it's in other people's nature to just watch everything unfold like a TV show and just go along with whatever the storyline is. Like, you know, I guess this is the season finale of the wacky world of Bigfoot. Let me just see what happens. And it's just very disturbing to me. It's like, what? Let's put it in perspective. Somebody that you trust implicitly, that you've spent time with, that you trust, maybe a family member, maybe a friend, somebody, research partner, husband, wife, what have you. They call you one day and they go, "You're not going to believe this shit. I just watched this documentary. And get ready for this. The world is flat. It's so compelling. I saw it. It's so compelling. It's 100% the world is flat." And then you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, the world's flat. I guess the world's flat now. Like, you're not even going to watch the documentary. Like, in my mind, that's what's going on here. Like, somebody told somebody the world, they saw a really compelling documentary on mermaids or the world is flat or what have you. And people are just going along with it. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah. And, I need not remind you people that hearsay is not allowed in the court of law. And you would be wise to adopt that policy into your own lives as well. I'm not saying you shouldn't consider hearsay or contemplate it or maybe, take it into advisement, but to just adopt an opinion based on it is probably not a good thing to do. So just take that for what it's worth. I know opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one. Mine's probably a little bit tighter than everybody else's. But I've been seeing some interesting conversations with some friends. And one of the things that I said from the very beginning, as soon as I heard about it, is this documentary is going to be a Rorschach test for a lot of people. And from what I'm seeing so far, like I think that is my theory is confirmed there. I saw the video with I believe his name is Eric from Harry Man Roads. I'm not sure if that's his name. Apologies if I get it wrong. And he basically says, like, I think the one Bigfoot person that has seen the movie. I think he's like the one dude that is into Bigfoot or has a Bigfoot page that's seen the movie, seen the documentary. And he's like, it's a hoax. It's 100% a hoax. But I did see another post from another who I don't remember who made this post, and if it's even legit, but somebody that claimed to have seen the movie and said that the suit looks nothing like the Patty suit. So remember the story I was talking about earlier with the Ohio flat, where one guy's like, it's a circus. There's people everywhere running around the woods with guns. And another guy was like, I didn't see anybody. So, I've decided after all this decisiveness and like people arguing back and forth, I'm going to withhold judgment until I see it myself. However, I feel like there's some things that need to be talked about. And, I think this is going to be an interesting experiment. That's why I decided I'm going to sit down and do this now, record this now. And then I'm going to record again after I see the film, whenever that may be. This may be truth. I might just decide I'm not going to do this anymore by the time that film comes out. Who knows? But either way, I don't think I'm going to take my picture down anytime soon. So one thing I want to, nobody has mentioned or talked about. Let's talk about documentaries in general here, guys. Filmmakers make documentaries with an agenda. I know we kind of think of documentaries as like, this is an impartial look into this subject, but that's not always the case, is it? Look at just a few years ago, you had that show on Netflix, that Making a Murderer, and it kind of went viral. It went like mainstream. And at first glance, like it made this police department look like they were like inept or crooked or both. And so much so that I from what I understand, the gentleman that was convicted of that crime got out of jail. Like he's out. Like dude straight up probably murdered somebody. Somebody decided the police were bad, and made a documentary about it. And dude's out walking around now. However, if you look into it, this kind of stuff you don't see too much on the mainstream media. Netflix and the filmmakers got sued by one of the officers in the film, and the officer won. And they proved that basically misdirection and dishonesty were used in the film. For example, this is an example. This isn't actual footage. They would show the defense attorney like asking the officer the officer's on the witness stand, and they would say something like, "What color is the sock? Was the sock on the floor?" And it would cut to the officer, and he'd be like, "Green." And then they would like flash a picture of the red sock on the floor. Well, it turns out they were just copying and cutting and pasting his responses. So his answer, where he said green, he was like talking about the color of vehicle or the color of something else. Like it wasn't even the answer to that question. And these are the kind of like shady filmmaking practices that I'm afraid that we're dealing with here. And in the review on the Harry Man Road, I think again, I think his name's Eric. I'm going to stop saying it because I don't know if that's his name. He says in the documentary, he does a good job from what I mean, I haven't seen it, so I don't know, but he seems like he does a pretty good job of summing up the documentary. And again, it's like a 2-hour documentary. Watch a 2-hour film and then come back and tell me everything that happens. Like you're not gonna get it perfect. We're going to talk about eyewitness testimony at some point. But there's a few scenes that he described that, for lack of a better term, it just kind of gives me the ick. Like this sounds like biased filmmaking, like deceptive dreck, like this is the kind of like stuff that you would probably see in Making a Murderer type documentary. And one scene is the confrontation that he describes is a confrontation between Clint Patterson and Bob Hieronymus. And apparently these two like get together, they put them in the same room, and Clint like pays Bob the money that Roger allegedly owed him for being in the patty suit. And like I said, I haven't seen it. It just seems weird as hell. It seems staged. It doesn't seem like that's something that would organically happen. I mean, like the filmmakers were like, now put them in a room together. Now kiss. And there's another scene that was, this is one that gives me the biggest, like, what the fuck? There's another scene that's described where apparently Bob Hieronymus, Clint Patterson, and the filmmakers, so I'm assuming like the director and a cameraman and probably a sound person, so like the 5 people here go to this Bigfoot event in Yakima and decide to confront, I'm using quote fingers, Bob Gimlin. And the way it was described in the review is they wait in line, they get up to Bob, and they start talking to Bob. And one of them, I don't know if it was Bob Hieronymus or Clint Patterson, says something like, well, it's time to come clean and tell the truth. And Bob says something along the lines like, yes, it is, or, oh, yeah, okay. And then at some point in here, in this conversation, I guess Judy, I think her name's Judy, Bob Gimlin's wife, basically realizes like something's going on. Like this isn't normal, and gets up and like, I guess there wasn't supposed to be filming in there. So she gets up, jumps in front of the camera, and is like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I guess she has them escorted out. And people are taking this exchange with Bob as him basically admitting that the film was staged. And look, guys, Bob Gimlin is 94 years old. He can't fucking hear. Okay. My wife's grandma is 97. She can't hear hardly anything. Okay. You talk to her and she just kind of does that like jello neck bob thing. Half the time, I don't think she knows who I am or my wife, and my wife is her granddaughter. The last time I talked to Bob, I had to really raise my voice for him to hear me. And even then, I'm not really sure that Bob knew what I was saying to him. And there were a few points where I would ask him a question where he would like say yes or just agree with me. And I did not ask the man a yes or no question. So I think it's pretty obvious that the guy has some hearing problems. And it sounds like from what Harry Man Road says, at one point, this Bob's wife or somebody steps in front of the camera, but you can still hear the conversation, probably due to the microphones. But again, like that might not even have been the best thing for her to do, because then when she's in front of the cameras, they can literally just dub in any audio they want behind, they can just make it sound like he's going, yeah, the whole thing was a fraud, and you can't see his lips moving. You don't know what he's saying. She's standing in front of the camera. They can slip any audio they want in there. That's a common filmmaking tactic. I'm not saying that's what they did. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying it does happen. And, like I said, it's aggravating me that people are, taking us at face value without any firsthand witness. I might watch this and be like, no, Harry Man Road was 100% correct. I agree with everything he said. But again, we'll get into it. So there's also a mention of an interview of a relative of Al Diatley. Al Diatley was Roger Patterson's brother-in-law. He's a very wealthy and influential man around Yakima, and he helped Roger. He gave Roger money a lot, and I guess him and Roger were kind of in cahoots or business or whatever you want to call it. And apparently, in this interview, there is a moment where they are sitting down with a relative of Al Diatley, and they're just about to do the interview, and then wouldn't you know it, darn it, lawyers show up just like these on-call lawyers that make house calls show up. They bust in and they're like, we're with Al Diatley's estate. This interview isn't happening. And it just blows my mind. That sounds so convenient and contrived and dramatic. In my experience, just, I've dealt with lawyers some in the past, just a little bit. In my experience, the lawyers would just send you a letter and be like, don't do this. If you've already done it, destroy it, or we're going to sue you to oblivion. Cease and desist. Not knock on the door and be like, stop what you're doing. I'm a lawyer. Here's my bar exam number. Seems really weird. Super weird. Little bizarre. So the next thing I want to touch on here, again, this is an experiment. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to hopefully watch the documentary, and I want to do another video. But I want to touch on this new footage. I'm going to say new. When I say new, it's allegedly footage from 1966 that has been found, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I think if any of you have done any kind of real research or deep dive into the Patterson-Gimlin film, you probably know that Roger was at least attempting to film a documentary or a film about Sasquatch. And like most films of that type, he wanted to do some reenactments. He wanted to do some Bigfoot sightings. I think at one point he had Bob pretending to be a guide or something, and they were going to track the Bigfoot. It was going to be like a dramatization or something. So it would stand to reason that he probably had or planned to have a Bigfoot suit for the film. And that would explain the claims made by the suit maker, Philip Morris, that he sold a suit to Roger Patterson. And further, adding on to that, if you're familiar with the podcast Astonishing Legends, they did a 6-part deep dive into the Patterson-Gimlin film. I recommend it. You should definitely listen to it if you're interested in this. And they talk about a letter or memo that details Roger Patterson showing a film developer in Yakima some test footage of a person in a Bigfoot suit. And the person that saw the footage described the suit as, and I'm quoting verbatim here, I believe, or at least very close approximation, laughably bad. Like, it was not good. So knowing about that, knowing that Roger had a laughably bad, I'm using quote fingers here, laughably bad Bigfoot suit, and hearing that this new documentary showed test footage or a test run of the Patty suit, I assumed, like many, that this test footage was probably of that suit and it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. And sure, there are going to be some filthy casuals that weren't aware of any of this, and they're going to be like, oh, just like the deathbed confessions, just like all the other stuff, this is the end of the Patterson Gimlin film. But most of the community would probably be like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's just that test footage that that he made for the documentary. It's not that big of a deal. And again, years from now, when somebody mentioned a PG film, wasn't all this proven to be fake? And there's a documentary that has him. And no, this is test footage with a very poor quality suit that obviously is not the Patty suit. And, it's just another one of those fake nails in the coffin. Like I said, there's been dozens. So the documentary screened at the film festival. It's not available to view anywhere. Basically right now we're just playing the telephone game with the people that have seen it. As far as I know, for sure, the only person that has seen it is the Hairy Man Road guy. But like I said, I did see a few posts, anonymous posts or posts from people I didn't know that's claimed they'd seen it and said, like, it doesn't look anything like Patty and it's definitely not Patty. I don't know. And that's why I think it's a little weird that people that haven't seen it, my friends included, are jumping on the "it's a hoax" wagon. I find it just incredibly disturbing that so many people are doing that without any firsthand eyewitness testimony. And I've talked about so many times before how unreliable eyewitness testimony is. And to put it into like recent events, remember when that Luigi guy unalived that executive in I think it was in New York, like on the street, in the middle of the road, or in the street sidewalk. And they had the footage of him in the mask and then with the backpack, and then they released some different footage of him without the mask, basically saying, this is a person of interest. Does anybody recognize him? And I was flabbergasted. Like, I expect nothing and I'm still disappointed. I was flabbergasted at the amount of people when they released those images of him without the mask. People were saying, that's not the same guy. He's not wearing the same clothes, or he's got a different jacket on. And, I was unaware that we're not allowed to change clothes. I apologize. I mean, it just blew my mind how people seem to be unable to laterally think and reason that, okay, maybe this is footage from a different time or place or date of the same person. It's like, just because he doesn't have the same, like I've got my Alaska shirt on, after I record this, I'm going to go put my hoodie on. It doesn't make me a different person. I'm just wearing different clothes. So I'm just a little skeptical of all this secondhand viewership stuff. It makes me a bit suspicious. But you know what else it does? Is it makes me freaking foam at the mouth to want to see this new documentary. I mean, talk about freaking viral marketing and driving up the demand, which in turn will drive up the value of the film distribution platforms. Hell, I saw somebody the other day post like, where can I see this? I'm willing to pay $50 to watch this film. And these film producers are probably watching these comments and just, they're just like ODing, like they're sitting back with like dollar signs in their eyes, like foaming at the mouth, like, like, we're going to make so much money. which don't get me wrong, I'm a capitalist. I'm pro-capitalist, but at the same time, money makes people do weird stuff, and there's a lot of claims that this was just done for money. That Roger's doing it for money. And let me tell you guys something. When it comes to family and money, there are no limits. Like, I'm speaking from experience here. There is no limits. Like, people will do whatever they can to get theirs or what they think is theirs. So, I'm certainly willing to entertain that aspect of things. I'm not saying that's what happened or is going on. But this scenario that we're in right now, with everybody clamoring to see the film, everybody wanting to see the film, everybody asking to see the film, it is a filmmaker's dream. Okay. And as far as this new footage goes, I say new, I mean the footage found from 1966. We've talked about how widely, or for the most part, accepted it is that, at least in the Bigfoot community, that Roger did have a suit and he shot some footage with it, which would explain the claims made by Philip Morris and Bob Hieronymus. But like I said, a few people that have seen the film, including the Hairy Man Road guy, has declared it's over. It's a hoax, 100%. The Patty suit. And you know what? It might be. It might be. But also, I got to see it for myself. I have to. Remember, people thought the dress was white. People thought the dress was blue. That Luigi guy was a different guy because he had on a different shirt. So I got to wait and just see what my own lion eyes tell me. I have to. I can't make any determination one way or the other. Which brings me, my next point here is I want to touch on a post that I saw on Facebook from an account called Sunset Boulevard Records. And this is a long, lengthy post. I think they might have just like copy and pasted an article. This might have been an article that was in on a website or something, and they just cut and pasted it because it's super long. And it tells the story of how the director of Capturing Bigfoot came to have this footage and how the documentary came to be made. And it's far too much for me to read. And this has already gone on far too long. In fact, I need to check, make sure I'm still recording. And I want to touch on some things that just make my cop sense tingle, if you know what I'm saying. Like, as an investigator, some of the stuff I read in this article was just, it didn't set well with me. It sounded, well, let's get into it. So the events that led to this documentary being made, in my opinion, border on the incredulous, even more incredulous than a North American undiscovered primate walking around. Like this is like winning the lottery 2 or 3 times in a row type odds. And I'm going to touch on a couple things here. Again, this was, maybe there's perfectly reasonable explanations for all of this stuff. So this gentleman used to work for Boeing. He likely developed the film for Roger. I think, we all, the big mystery, one of the biggest like mysteries around the PG film is, where did they get the film developed? Well, it turns out probably maybe this guy developed it, or at least that's what they're saying. This guy that worked for Boeing tells his wife, he goes, I've got this footage here. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'm going to put it in a safe. And if it gets out, I could get in a lot of trouble. Like, it could ruin me. We could be in a lot of trouble. So what does he do with it? Does he destroy it? No. What does he do with it? He puts it in the safe. He hides it for 60 years in a safe. Like, this could ruin me, but I want to hang on to it just, for nostalgia's sake. I don't know. Maybe he thought he needed some uh, blackmail material. Maybe. I don't know. But that's pretty damn weird. Like, oh my God, don't talk about this. If this ever got out, it could destroy me. This could ruin our lives forever. I'm going to hang on to it. No, that's a leap of logic for me. So this gentleman dies. His daughter finds the footage in the safe and is like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what this is. I think this is Bigfoot footage. Um, let me contact a documentary filmmaker and tell them what I found and see if he can take a look at it." And the way this post reads, this lady picks the director of Capturing Bigfoot, picks his name out of a phone book or something. I don't know, reaches into a sorting hat. I don't know. Maybe she typed in like documentary film directors, looked in the SAG after union book or something, and just, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, this one picks this dude's name at random, sends him the footage. He gets the footage. He gets it developed. Says he has it for nine months. And he has this footage for 9 months. I don't know if it took him 9 months to get it developed. It sounded like he got it developed. And then he looked at it basically for 9 months trying to figure out what it was. But then this is the biggest red flag for me. He goes, "Yeah, I grew up in Yakima and I know all these people. I've heard all these stories before." Okay, guys. Take a moment here with me. This lady picks a random documentary director, I guess, to send this footage to, and he just happens to have grown up in Yakima, grew up hearing all the stories about all these characters, Bob Hieronymus, Bob Gimlin, Joe Roger Patterson. Takes him 9 months to figure it out. Okay. This is the film of the guy. I know these guys. 9 months for that. And he just happened to grow up in Yakima. So let me try and put this in perspective for you. I grew up in a town, pretty small town, in Kentucky called Drakesboro, Kentucky. It's like 800 residents, but let's say it's a town of, thousands. So one day, some lady walks out on her porch and gets footage of a Bigfoot or a cryptid or what have you. She doesn't know anything about cryptids or Bigfoot or what have you, but she's got this footage. And she goes, "I want to send this to a cryptid podcast." And she just goes and Googles like cryptid podcasts. And of course, we all know there's thousands of cryptid podcasts. And she just decides to choose mine. She says, "I'm going to send this to Beans Baxter." And it turns out I grew up in Drakesboro, Kentucky. What are the odds of that? Because that's the way I'm reading that this occurred. Like, she randomly picked this dude, this guy that just happened to grow up in Yakima, happened to be a director. So I just happened to grow up in Drakesboro. I just happened to have a cryptid podcast, and this lady just happened to get Bigfoot footage, and she just, hey, I'm going to send it to somebody, and it just happens to be me. I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket today, if that's me. Like, he needs to go buy as many lottery tickets as he can afford. So I actually got to thinking about this pretty heavy last night. I'm like, what are the odds? What are the odds? So I went to Chat GPT and I said, "Chat GPT, can you tell me what these odds are?" I was like, I basically laid out the whole story for him. I was like, this dude grew up in Yakima, grew up, moved away, became a film director or a documentary film director. This lady, who I believe I believe this gentleman was in Olympia. I don't think he was, or Olympia College, wherever that, maybe that's in Yakima. I don't know. But this lady happens to find this footage and then sends it to by chance. He said, by chance. The director said that he got this film by chance. Just happens to send it to him. And he makes this documentary. And I was trying to get ChatGPT, like, what are the odds of that? And ChatGPT basically said, I can't calculate those odds. Like, it is uncalculable. It did say, ChatGPT did say that the most likely scenario is that there is some connection here between the person with the film and the film director. They knew each other from school. They went to college together. Their families knew each other. Like, there was some thread, something that tethered the person with the film to the director, or, they have a mutual acquaintance, which I guess isn't entirely out of the question. But why not just say, hey, she found the footage and a mutual friend, knows me, knows I grew up in Yakima. I'm familiar with the PG film. Send it to me. Doesn't that make a lot more sense? Doesn't that sound like something that would really happen? Other than, like, yeah, she picked my name out of a SAG-AFTRA union book, and I just happen to grow up in Yakima. Like, how many coincidences I believe, I think Roger and Bob would walk up on a Bigfoot before all these dominoes would fall in this order. I mean, this is like opening up your dryer and all your clothes, like, when it stopped drying, all your clothes just stopped and they were perfectly folded. Like, this is like incalculable odds. Like I said, ChatGPT couldn't even calculate it. ChatGPT said something's going on. There's a red flag. ChatGPT literally said there's a red flag here in this story. And more than likely what's going on is this story that they're given about how they got the film is a narrative choice made for the documentary. And the reason they're doing that is because they can't, or they don't want to tell the real story behind how they got the footage. And I'm not saying the footage is fake, although there's a lot of people running around out there saying it might be AI. And we'll touch on that here in a second, but it's uncanny. And ChatGPT can't calculate the odds of this happening, and basically says, yeah, this has to be a narrative choice for the documentary. They either can't tell you where they got the footage, or they don't want to tell you where they got the footage, because the odds of this randomly happening are incalculable. And so he gets the footage. So here's another. He gets the footage. He goes to the Pattersons, and they immediately confess. Apparently, like, yep, it was fake. It was all fake. Which I'm hearing again with conflicting reports. I'm hearing conflicting reports. From what I understand, again, haven't seen the film. Clint Patterson is the only one that comes out. Well, Clint, I guess, and Bob is the only one that comes out and says the film is a hoax. From what I've been told, don't know if this is true, Patricia never says the film. She never sits down, looks at it and goes, oh yeah, that was fake. She might kind of allude to it, but she never says it outright. And I think at one point in the video or in the documentary, Clint says that Patricia said it was fake. Again, remember what I said about hearsay? It's like, you've got the woman right there, just have her say it. So I'm telling you guys, something isn't right. Ken Gerhard posted many thoughts, which are pretty much similar to mine, on his Facebook. And he made the observation that I guess the director did Ask Me Anything on Reddit, where he answered a bunch of questions about the film. And Ken made the observation that it looks like pretty much every question was answered, uh, except for one. There was like one question he didn't really respond to, and that dealt with the origins of this new footage. And I don't know. I mean, maybe he logged off and didn't get to that question. Who knows? I did like scroll through that. I saw it and went and scrolled through it. And I'll give you guys like the Cliff Notes version of it. Basically, every time somebody asks a question, he goes, "You'll just have to wait and see the movie. You'll have to wait till the movie comes out. You'll have to wait and see the movie." So I just, yeah, it was like, cut and paste answered. But something isn't right, guys. My cop sense is tingling. I was telling my wife about it the other night, and she's like, your cop sense is telling you something isn't right. You are being deceived. And even like, oh, I think my wife might be home from work, or there might be a moose. There's been a moose hanging around here for like the past several days. So even if this let's just say this new footage is legit and Roger hoaxed the film. Let's just say that it's a foregone conclusion. It is true. The guy from Harry Man Road said it was. So let's just assume that, like everybody else is. Even if that's all true, something about this documentary is not right. I don't think they're being honest about the origin of this footage. I don't know. My theory is they got it from the Pattersons. They got it from Clint or Patricia, and they've woven this dramatic, like it was locked in a safe, and it was discovered after this man's death, and they're weaving that dramatic license so it makes the Pattersons look more like they were like forced to confess under the smoking gun. And in reality, it was the Patterson family themselves that produced the smoking gun. And, I think if the footage is real, I think that's probably the case. I think that it is, it might be test footage for the Patty suit. Or maybe it's the test footage that Roger took of the Philip Morris suit, and it is laughably bad. I've had two different takes allegedly from it, and one person said it's 100% Patty, and the other person said it looks nothing like Patty. So who knows? I've seen some speculation that the new footage might be AI, and allegedly there's a scene in the documentary where a film expert confirms the age of the film. He like looks at the film and is like, yeah, this is from, you can tell by the markings, this is from 1967. And that's fine and good, but I think it's very important that someone verifies this expert's identity and basically gets him to confirm, this is what you said on the documentary. Is that correct and accurate? Is the film that you verified, did you see the footage on it? Is it the same film they show in the movie? And I think that's very important. That's, I think, some follow-up that needs to be done. I mean, who knows? Maybe, maybe I'll just watch it and be like, no, that's 100%. Like, I believe this documentary 100%. And from what I understand, also the documentary basically ignores or flat out dismisses the trackway evidence. From what I understand, more than one researcher, including Renee DeHinden, went out and investigated the scene after the footage was captured, and basically found no evidence of shenanigans. So that's interesting. I actually have I think one of the casts I have back there, not the one on the wall, but the one behind me on the bookshelf, I think it's a cast that Roger did at Bluff Creek, just not when he filmed Patty. So who knows if that's legit or not. But ignoring the trackway and not addressing it, that it seems a little suspicious to me. It seems more like some of that deceptive filmmaking, and it shows that they clearly had like a agenda. This is the side of the story we want to tell, not this side. We don't want to show anything that might cast doubt upon the things that were. Although I've heard also that it's very ambiguous. So again, I've got conflicting ideas. But again, why not take like 2 to 3 minutes of screen time and address it? Did they ask Clint or Patricia or anybody like, hey, why? How did they get this trackway so clean that it fooled Renee DeHenden and all these other investigators that went to the scene? So I'm sorry. I could probably go on for another hour or more. I'm going to try and hit my main thoughts. I think I'm going to have to do that and then just wait until after I see the movie, which at this point, like I said, it might be months away. It might be weeks away. It might be next week. Who knows? But I'd be really curious to know what that final number is on the distribution rights. I'm guessing they're going to get 6 figures for it. And another question I have is like, what's the deal? Like, what are the Pattersons getting? I heard, this is a rumor. Somebody told me that the Pattersons got paid $20,000 to appear. I don't know if that's each. I don't know if that's between them. But I've heard that number thrown around. I've heard they got $20,000, and I'm wondering if that's a flat fee, or if they're going to get any royalties or residuals. Because if they're not getting any royalties or residuals, they are going to get screwed, because this movie is going to make a lot of money, and it would be very hilariously ironic if the Pattersons get butthurt over the amount of money this movie generates, and then call the film makers out for some kind of chicanery or something, to be like, it is AI footage or something like that. It would be so funny. It just another like, well, okay, this does kind of debunk it, but then there's this. It would just add more to the mystery, and there would be people that would be like, that film 100% debunks the Patterson Gimlin film. And then there'll be people, yeah, but a year later, Clint come out and said that they tricked him, or they did this, or they did that. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I also wonder if this scenario isn't going to take place. So check this out. I haven't seen anybody else float this idea. So after these screenings, right, after all this hoopla, and the hype hits a fever pitch, and everybody wants to see this film, the filmmakers go, oh no, we're being threatened, or we're being sued, or being threatened to be sued by Bob Gimlin or Al Diatley or the Pattersons or whoever. And now we have to remove this new footage, but you can still watch the rest of the documentary. And then they take that footage out, much like a Flash of Beauty, and it's never seen again, and it's unavailable for scrutiny. So that would be, in my opinion, one of the most interesting turns of events, because that, in my mind, would point 100% to shenanigans, because you would only have the word of the few people that saw it on the big screen in its entirety. And it's one thing to see a movie, on the big screen running in real time. And it's another to take it home and have it on your home computer or your phone or whatever, and be able to scrub through it frame by frame and analyze it. So I'm interested to see if that happens. And if it does, if that happens, everybody has to come back here and subscribe to the channel and do hashtag Beans was right, and share the video and tell people like, man, Beans called this shit from Jump Street. I'd be proud of that one if I called that. So My gosh. I'm going to try and wrap this up. I've still got like 6 pages of notes. So let's do a what if scenario. Okay. What if the PG film was hoax, which I think I don't want to make an assumption. Like I said, I want to see the film, make up my own mind. But I think we're just going to have to, I think we're going to have to prepare for this gut punch that's coming. I think we're going to have to just assume, not that it was fake, but assume the possibility that we're going to have to accept that it's fake. So what if it was fake? Well, Roger and Bob didn't invent Bigfoot. They didn't discover Bigfoot. They were out looking for Bigfoot when they filmed Patty or Hoax Patty, either or. And Bigfoot he was around before the PG film, will be around after the PG film. Keep in mind, all the stories around Port Chatham, all the shenanigans in Port Chatham and the Hairy Man, all that happened years before this. That stuff happened in the 40s, in the 50s. The PG film was made in 67. So Bigfoot was well around before the PG film. But I have to admit, as I've said, and most of you that know me well, I do hold the PG film in high regard. After watching Dr. Meldrum's analysis, and it just kind of became my go-to evidence, my shining example to share with people that are interested in the subject. And if I find out it was hoaxed, I will be deeply saddened. It'll be almost like a death in the family. It will be for a lot of people. And I can already see a lot of people, myself included, it's almost like they're going through the stages of grief. Right now, we're in denial, and soon, there'll come the other stages, and which I don't recall all. I remember the episode of The Simpsons where he went through all 7 stages in like 5 minutes. Acceptance is the last one, I guess. But let's talk about Dr. Meldrum for a second. I mean, he didn't imagine all those elements and nuances in the film that he's spoken about over the years. I mean, they're there. He can bring them up and he can show them to you. See this and this, and he's shown me me and hundreds of others, the compliant gait, flexing the muscles, sagittal crest, and all these features that he points out on Patty. Keep this in mind. Many of those, features were not widely regarded or accepted to be part of hominid structure, bones, or what am I trying to say here? A lot of the stuff that he points out regarding Patty can be found in the remains of Lucy, the hominid that wasn't even discovered until 1974. And that's after the PG film. So my question is, how in the hell did Roger Patterson just happen to get all of that into a costume? Like, was he some kind of closet expert on anthropological anatomy? Did he have access to undiscovered hominid remains, and these somehow had the foresight and the ability to incorporate them into the suit that some of the best effects people of the time said was improbable, if not outright impossible? I thought he was just a cowboy. So how is it did he just, I'm going to say, win the lottery and get lucky with all these details that just happen to reflect what Dr. Meldrum and others would expect to see in that type of a specimen? It just, how many freaking oh gosh, that's amazing coincidences are packed into this story on both sides. The PG film, the documentary, like all that. So, I mean, that's what I would ask is it's like, how many amazing coincidences and strokes of dumb luck can occur to one person? Which is the real deal? This documentary that this guy just happened to get the new footage, Roger and Patterson just happening to get the only decent footage of this incredibly rare animal? I don't know. But I'd like to spend my last few moments on this talking about Bob Gimlin. And, Bob Gimlin's my friend. Like I said, I've sat down, I've had many conversations with him, I've broke bread with the man. And it would make me very, very sad to find out that he lied to me and lied to everyone else. And I've kind of racked my brain trying to think of reasons why he would lie about this. And there's only one scenario that kind of like just to me sticks out and goes, this is it. This is the right one. This is what happened. And we know that Bob went to see Roger right before he passed when he was sick in the hospital. And I think, this is my opinion, I think probably what happened, if the film is a hoax, I think Roger basically asked Bob, hey, can you not expose the film so that it can take care of Patricia and the kids? And I can see Bob agreeing to that. I can see him, at his friend's deathbed and saying, yeah, I can do that, because I can see that scenario playing out, and Bob basically just, okay, we'll let it ride. I won't say anything, and Patricia and the kids will be taken care of. And from what I understand, I think they do get royalties. So that would track. And like I said, I can see that being a easily believable scenario, and it would explain why a person that I believe is very morally upstanding like Bob would uh, not be entirely truthful, put it that way. But again, we know that Bob did step away. Bob did not have anything to do with Bigfoot for a long time. And then he did kind of step back into that Bigfoot world. I think it was around the year 2000. And again, I'd ask, like, why? Like, just keep your mouth shut, live, your life in obscurity, and just, let it ride like you promised your friend. And I remember the story where Doug Hychek offered Bob $1 million basically to come clean and say that it was a hoax. Again, I wonder, like, why not take that money? Why not accept that? Because you could tell the truth and keep your promise. You could take some of that money, share it with Patricia. I think at that time, probably the kids were probably grown and out of the house. Why not? Mutually beneficial for everybody. So there's no easy answers here on either side of the aisle. I told my wife last night, I said, both scenarios, whether the PG film is real or the PG film is a hoax, both those scenarios require some mental gymnastics and some pretty amazing coincidences and strokes of incredible luck. And I feel like no matter what, people are still going to believe the PG film is legit. As of right now, this recording, I'm still leaning towards it being legit. I still believe it's legit. Like I said, that opinion might change. But Roger and Bob, they didn't create Bigfoot. They didn't invent the phenomenon, despite what a lot of filthy casuals believe. It's always been out there, and I think it will be out there for a long time after all of us are grown, including Roger and Bob. But if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate you. I thank you for watching. I hope to see you again in the video I do after this, after I watch Capturing Bigfoot, whenever that may be, if it happens. I got so frustrated with everything last night. I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to try. I'm going to make a concerted effort. I promise. Sorry, my dog just came in here and decided he needs the nest. But I just want to say, guys, before I go, I'm going to get out of here. I love you, Bob. Whatever the truth is, hey, it doesn't change the fact you served your country and you lived a damn interesting life. I am Beans Baxter. This is the Last Squatch. And remember, the beans abides.